Welcome to Speidel's California Minute. I'm your host, Catherine Zidane. This week we're covering entity identification numbers and classification changes. We'll be covering this topic in Speidel's 4-hour Critical California Tax Issues webinar on August 27th, along with California's tax minefields such as conformity issues, residency, community property, and apportionment. For details and to register, go to speidel.com and click webinars. An issue that frequently causes confusion for tax professionals is which identification number to enter on a return when an entity's classification changes, such as going from a disregarded single-member LLC to a corporation. If a single-owner entity's classification changes so that it's recognized as a separate entity for federal tax purposes, and that entity had an EIN, then the entity is required to use that EIN and not the TIN of the single owner. If the entity did not already have its own EIN, then the entity will need to acquire an EIN and not use the TIN of the single owner. California does not receive a copy of Federal Form 8832, Entity Classification Election, directly from the IRS, and sole proprietors, partnerships, and LLCs do not have Secretary of State corporate numbers. The FTB will automatically assign a number to a non-corporation immediately after the entity makes its first estimated tax payment or files its first corporate return. The FTB will send a letter to the entity advising it of the assigned corporate number, which has to be used for all future FTB filings by entering it into the corporate number box on the entity's returns for the entity electing to be taxed as a corporation. It's likely that you'll need to contact the FTB to post estimated tax and other payments to the entity's account if the payments were made prior to receiving the new number. The FTB accepts e-filed returns without a California corporate number. The entity has to provide an explanation instead of a number, such as first corporate return for LLC electing to be taxed as a corporation. Use the following tips to help process returns and payments for an LLC that has elected corporate tax treatment. This applies to both single-member LLCs and LLCs taxed as a partnership. The same procedures will apply to the entity that elected to be taxed as a corporation and that also made a valid S election. Make estimated tax payments with the federal ID number. Advise clients to forward to you the new identification number provided by the FTB as soon as they receive it. Contact the FTB if the estimated tax payment and any prior payments are not transferred to the new account. Enter the identification number in the box labeled California Corporation Number. And if the election to be taxed as a corporation is made in the first year of the entity's registration or organization, the corporation is not subject to the $800 minimum franchise tax, but is subject to tax on net income at 8.84% for C corporations and 1.5% for S corporations. Let your clients know that they may receive notices from the FTB requesting the LLC return and/or asking for money if payments were not properly transferred because the new identification number was not used. To stay up to date with California tax law changes, subscribe to Speidel's California Tax Letter. This monthly newsletter is written by California Tax Pros for California Tax Pros in plain English with helpful examples and charts. For subscription information, go to speidel.com and click Publications. That's all for this week. Join us next time for another episode of Speidel's California Minute.